And then how you launch it is how you'll end up in a year, because scaling it is a whole different story. So how you really launch it, that's where the momentum comes from. So that's the big thing of what I really sort of teach people and go through, is helping them really craft a strategy there, because it's so much more than just getting your microphone and talking with friends. It's like creating a whole strategy around it so people recognize you, you build the authority, you build the influence, and it has this ripple effect of people putting you on a pedestal now, which has an effect of in business. If you're a coach or an entrepreneur, people actually start to look at you and go, far out, you've got like what, a top 50 podcast, top 100, top 10, like that's insane. And you start to get incredible guests on your show as well. So it has this big ripple effect there. But
Hello, my loves, and welcome back to Create Your Life. I am your host, Simone Leah. So, I just wanted to let you guys know that today's interview is actually an interview that I recorded about a year ago when I ran an online event called the Soul-Led Entrepreneurs Summit. It was a really wonderful event. I had some beautiful, amazing speakers talking about things like connecting with your intuition and how you can use that in your business, how to do Facebook advertising, how to do marketing as a soul-led entrepreneur, all of these cool things to do with business, entrepreneurship, and actually also spirituality and connecting within. And so these interviews were so wonderful that I really wanted to be able to share them with you now. So if when you're watching this, you see or hear the word soul-led entrepreneurs, this is still the Create Your Life show, but these interviews were just too good for me to keep to myself any longer. So I really hope you guys enjoy this interview, and I can't wait to connect with you again soon. Hello and welcome back to Soul-Led Entrepreneurs. I am your host, Simone Leah. It is so lovely to be here talking to you all today. So today I had the wonderful opportunity to talk to Morgan T. Nelson from Dream Out Loud about podcasting. So Morgan launched a successful podcast about 18 months ago, and over this time has refined how to do that successfully through people asking him, if you were to do another podcast, what would you do differently, or what would you do again? So he's now written a book about it, built a program around how to launch a successful podcast. So it was a really great opportunity for me to actually get him on and share with you guys what he did and what he recommends. And so we talk about things like launching your podcast, what you should outsource and when. We cover things like having that business mindset from the start and having that consistency of treating it like a business, because I think that if you're going into it with a hobby mindset, you're going to get a different result than when you go into it with the mindset of this is a business and that's where I'm at. I'm going to show up every day and that's what I'm going to do. So it's just a really great chat for anyone wanting to build their personal brand by having a podcast. So I highly recommend you guys watch this one. Take notes. I know you'll enjoy it. I think that one of the things about Morgan that really stood out to me in that conversation was that he's not just an entrepreneur, he's a business owner. He's someone who will set up multiple businesses just based on his current mindset. So there is a lot to learn there from him. And yeah, it's wherever you are in your business, whether you want one business or 5 businesses, I know that this is a chat that you will definitely get value on. So I can't wait for you all to hear it. Hey guys, welcome back to Soul-Led Entrepreneurs. My name is Simone, and today I'm here with Morgan T. Nelson from Dream Out Loud. How are you, Morgan?
hello, so good to see you and be here on the show. I'm excited.
It is so exciting. I'm so excited to catch up with you. Thank you so much. Today we have like the absolute pleasure of talking about launching a successful podcast, which is something you know so much about. But before we dive into that, I'd love to ask you, what does being soul aligned in business mean to you?
Um, what has been soul line? I think doing what you love, like working inside of your values. But what I would say is really doing what you love, doing like if you ever heard of the ikigai, right? They say that there's 4 pillars. It's like, what do you love? What are you good at? What can you get paid for? And what does the world need? And when you're working in that sort of space, you're doing your ikigai, and that's this Japanese saying. And it's about really living and doing your purpose. So I think being soul aligned, it's about doing that, but working and living inside of your values. So knowing what is actually most important to you in your life and doing that and doing what you're good at, right? So Yeah, I couldn't do what I do if I wasn't completely aligned with it. Yeah, I'd be doing many other things.
Yeah. I literally love that. And that's so what it is. Like, you're doing it for the right reasons because it's what you love. So I really, really love that. So we're diving into podcasts today because you've successfully launched a podcast. Now you're teaching other people how to successfully launch podcasts. How do we do this?
Yeah. So, well, okay. So there's many things in this. Like, so to give a bit of a backstory, I've had my podcast now for I think around 18 months. And when I did first start my podcast, I did exactly that. I just started it, and I kind of launched. So like I had a bit of an attempt at it, and I did it, and then but it still turned out okay. Within my first 90 days, I went to a top 100 podcast for personal development. I was running my own events, backed off it. I made my first $25,000 from it. I was able to connect with some of the most incredible freaking guests ever and collaborate on events and you get one-on-one coaching with people through your podcast. Like it's a really incredible thing. And what started to happen was obviously when you do things, how I do it, I'm a ready, fire, aim kind of guy. Okay. So I take action before I'm ready. I'm take action before I know exactly what is actually happening. And that way, how you actually learn is by just looking at it and going, okay, what worked for me? What didn't work? How would I do it better? So what started to happen was I had a few friends, like when I did my podcast, I'm sure you probably will as well. I had some friends ask me, how do you start a podcast? I want to start my podcast. So I just started to tell some people, I'm like, you want to do this? You want to do that? And then I had some intelligent people that would ask me, hey, if you were to restart it, what would you do differently? And I said, I would launch it. I would do this exact strategy. I gave them a whole strategy to it. And then what happened is my first friend, he did it. He went to a #1 podcast in all of Australia in his first week. And then my second friend, he calls me up. He's got this thick New York accent. He calls me up. He's, Morgs, it's time, baby. It's time. I'm gonna launch my podcast. How do I do it? So it's so funny. So I'm like, yeah, mate, you need to do this. I gave him the whole thing as well. So this is what I'll do. He got 25,000 downloads in his first week. Like that's more than what I got on my show my first 6 months. And I was like, man, what I'm telling people how to do works. So then what I did, I put a pause on my podcast at about the year mark, because about 1 year in, and I did a relaunch, the whole rebrand. And then I just wanted to test it. I wanted to test to see if what I was doing, maybe I fluked it twice. I was testing on mine, and I relaunched my podcast with my method and my strategy. And mine went to a #6 podcast for all of personal development in all of Australia and #12 of all time. And because of that, the impact what that's had is I've been able to have some of the most incredible guests ever on my show, like Les Brown, like Cohen Ray, Chris Foss, like some absolutely incredible people. And it's because I've been able to establish myself as an authority with it. So I think it's very, very important. The first thing is to actually look at that. When people are wanting to start a podcast, they need to make the decision to launch it, not just start it. Because what happens is, 75% of people in 90 days have failed their podcast. So what that means is they've quit completely, or they've just done one episode and then stopped. Or what they've actually done is they've registered their name, they put it on iTunes, like, yes, I've got my cover photo, and then they haven't done anything. And because what happens is they let the imposter kick in, and they start to justify it. Well, I just don't have the time right now. I wouldn't do it right now. I don't have, and they start to make excuses as to why they can't do it. So that's the first reason why people fail their podcast. The second reason is because they just start it. So what happens is everyone's got an audience already. Okay. They've got the Facebook, they've got Instagram, or whatever their audience size is right now. So then what they do is they make a post and say, hey guys, in case if you wanted to know, I've now created a podcast. So what they do is they tell about the 1 to 2% of people that actually see your posts that, hey, I've made a podcast. And then they dilute it even more by getting the people who actually listen to podcasts, the auditory people. Because I'm a visual, like I listen to podcasts for YouTube. I like YouTube for it. So what happens is then they'll go, oh, I love podcasts. So what happens is in 90 days, they look at their podcast and they're like, far out, I've only got 3 listeners and one of them's my mom. It's like, what the hell? Like, how do you grow this thing? And then how you launch it is how you'll end up in a year, because scaling it is a whole different story. So how you really launch it, that's where the momentum comes from. So that's the big thing of what I really sort of teach people and go through, is helping them really craft a strategy there, because it's so much more than just getting your microphone and talking with friends. It's like creating a whole strategy around it, so people recognize you, you build the authority, you build the influence, and it has this ripple effect of people putting you on a pedestal now, which has an effect of in business. If you're a coach or an entrepreneur, people actually start to look at you and go, far out, you've got like what, a top 50 podcast, top 100, top 10, like that's insane. And you start to get incredible guests on your show as well. So it has this big ripple effect there. But having said that, to be in the top 25%, what happens is you've just got to start actually putting some shows on your podcast. So I actually looked at all the stats. I can't remember what it is between 75% to 99%. So it's 95%. But 4% of people in 90 days have got 10 podcasts. That's it. 1% of people have got more than 10 episodes and have made at least $1 from it. 1% of people. And what I can bring it back to is because how you do one thing is how you do everything. Like, we were having a chat before we started this session here, and I'm building a couple businesses right now. Each business, I've paid somebody. One business, I've paid about $45,000 to work with coaches and mentors to help me structure that and build that out. And the other one, at the moment, I think I've invested about $35,000 to work with coaches and mentors, because what I look at is like, I want to create this. So I'm going to find someone who's done it. I'm going to pay you money. You teach me what you know, and I'm going to do it in half the time, and I'm going to do it better. Because that's how I do it, right? And that's why I get everything I do. I get results in the top 1%, because I just find someone who has what I want. I buy their course. I work with them. I coach with them. Because I like to pay for speed. I would rather learn from someone else's mistakes than make it on my own. So that's sort of all people actually really need to get into the top 1% and have a successful podcast, is to create a proper strategy, create a proper launch strategy. It's the back end stuff. It's the boring stuff that no one sees. It's not the cool, fun interviews. It's the boring stuff, but it's how the interviews come out after and the impact it's going to have. So it's super, super important.
That is amazing. And yeah, like congratulations on everything that has happened with your podcast. Like it's so, so awesome. And I literally love that you mentioned doing that work on yourself. And I think that it's also important to point out that when you have that coach or that person who's helping you, whoever that may be for you, it might be a mentor or whatever it is, it's kind of giving you like, it's leveraging the abilities that aren't necessarily your strengths, if that makes sense. So I think it's a really great thing for a lot of entrepreneurs to kind of go, well, these are what my strengths are. These are what I'm good at. I need to outsource the things that I'm not great at. And to literally set up your businesses with the mindset of, I'm going to outsource the knowledge that I don't actually have from the start. Not even necessarily like I'm going to outsource the content creation, literally just outsourcing to learn the strategies and connect with the people who can get you there the fastest, I think is such a valuable thing for a lot of entrepreneurs to actually hear, because it makes like such a difference when you've got that mindset from the start that you don't have to know everything. You don't have to do it.
Yeah.
Do it perfectly.
Yeah, you need to hire or acquire skill sets. And what I like, it's all well and good. Like, you need to know what your strengths are. So I have some friends that have gone through my programs and our courses, and they've decided not to do exactly what I've taught, because I teach and I show people how to really build a system out and automate it and like outsource it, right? But then some people are like, well, I kind of want to edit some stuff myself. I want to do some of this myself. And I'm like, well, go for it. Like, if your strength is, if you like playing around with stuff and if you enjoy it, then happy days, like go for it. Me, for one, I hate that stuff. I'd rather stab my eyeballs out than play with technology. Okay. So what I like to do is rock up, do my interview, then leave and not touch another thing ever. And then the interview gets released. I don't even know that it was coming out. That's what I like. But what I'm big on is outsourcing everything that doesn't bring you money or joy. Like that's the thing. So what I said before is some people still like to do their edits because they like it. And that's fantastic. If you're getting joy from it and you're loving it, then go for it. Acquire that skill. I've learned a lot of new skills in the last 6 or 12 months building these businesses. a lot. Like, and I'm really loving like marketing now, and I'm loving more sales now as well. And it's fun. And it wasn't really my thing before, but I could outsource that, but I'm actually enjoying it. And also, if you are going to focus on acquiring skill sets, focus on the high income producing skill sets. So what that would be things like sales, like marketing, like branding, like things like this, and kind of leave things like having someone write your show notes, get that done for you, because might take you 30 minutes to do that. Your 30 minutes should be spent doing something a lot more productive or bringing you joy, or that can bring you in more income, and you can outsource that for a VA half an hour, like $4, So it's about sort of looking outside the box there, but hiring or acquiring skill sets. So yeah, very important.
I totally agree with that. And I totally love that. I would like to touch on with the outsourcing process. One belief that I personally have, which I want to ask about, is for me, if I'm going to outsource something, I believe that I need to have done it a couple of times just to be able to say to someone, this is what I want, and be able to share that knowledge. Do you feel like for someone who's starting a new podcast that they should have an idea about how to edit a podcast and the tools that you use to edit the podcast, the software, that sort of stuff? Or do you believe you can outsource all of that without knowing even about it?
Well, I mean, I wouldn't have the first idea on how to edit a podcast. I'd have absolutely no idea. So yeah, based on my experience, like I can't say like what you should be doing, but what I believe, like I've built a successful podcast and a team that helps me. I don't know how to do any of it. So me as the entrepreneur, I come in, I know what I want. I know what the end result's going to look like. And I find someone who's great at making that happen. So for me, like I take myself out of it. So I don't need to know it, because then I would be micromanaging, I'd be controlling and things like that. So I like to just go, here's what I want. I don't want this. I don't want this. I want it to look like X, Y, B. Give me your best option. And then I don't want to think about it. And so when it comes back, and then it's up to me as the CEO here, as the creative director, to actually look and be like, is this up to my standard? Do I like it, or do I want to tweak something? So that's kind of how I do, but I don't care how it happens. I don't care how it happens. I just want the end result, right? So yeah, I do believe that I have had. I think it comes down to a few things. Like probably back to what I said before. It's about the high income skill sets. I think if it's in your zone of genius. So let's give me an example. I've had a couple of people say to me, Morgan, if you're going to hire someone to do Facebook ads for you, you should really learn Facebook ads first. And I say, I totally get it. Makes sense. However, I would rather stab my eyeballs out than learn Facebook ads, because it's just not in my DNA. I just don't do that. Like, but like that's just not my strength. So I'm not going to spend time working on my 10%. I'm going to put all my energy into my 90%, what I'm great at. And I'm going to hire someone who's great at Facebook ads. And maybe then I can learn with them. So because of doing that strategy, I've learned more about Facebook ads lately. I've learned a lot more about ClickFunnels lately. I've learned a lot more about web design, funnels, and all this stuff lately. But I've had no idea how to do it, but I'm a lot more aware of it. And I tell you what, I'm aware enough to know that I still don't like it. I still don't want to do it. However, there is certain things like building the actual systems in my team and the business. There's things that I will step out of very soon, like actually marketing and actually, doing the offers and the sales and things like that. But I know them well enough because they're the high income skill sets of my business. So I've learned them well enough so I know if someone's doing a good job or not. So I can actually sort of teach how I do like it. So I think it could be important with things that are important to your business, but I'm just a big believer on that 80-20 rule and spending, 80% of your time doing the 20% of things that are going to bring you the biggest results, where most people sort of do it the other way around. They spend most of their time focused on things that are going to bring them the least amount of results. So yeah.
No, I literally love that, because that's probably what is enabling you to build more businesses at the same time, because you're focusing on more the skill of communication and management, as opposed to the actual technical skills, which I like. So for me personally, when I'm doing something, it's more just about having awareness of roughly how that process works, so I can say to someone, I want this result. You can do it X, Y, and Z way. If you know a better way, fire away. But I love that from day one, you're just like, if it's not my skill set, it's gone. I'm outsourcing that,
Yeah.
and I think that's amazing, because that's the thing that's going to allow you to have 5, 10, 15 businesses, or however many you want to have, because of the fact that you're outsourcing that.
Yeah, like I look at people like Ty Lopez, and he inspires me a lot. That guy's extremely freaking smart, extremely wealthy, and if you watch his Instagram stories and stuff, he lives such a just casual lifestyle, but he actually runs all his businesses from his phone. And he says, he's like, if I can't run it from my phone, there's a problem. And he's just big on that. He's like, because he's just about delegating and putting people in the right positions to exercise that for him. And he comes in to make sort of just the big decisions of where things need to go. And I, for quite a while, I've kind of always understood that, of outsourcing things. If it doesn't bring me money and doesn't bring me joy, I don't do it. Like, still to this day, we have someone that cleans the house. I have someone that actually comes in, and like, we have like a housekeeper now, where they'll come in, they'll make all my food every Monday. So I don't even have to think about what I'm going to eat for snacks, for lunch, for dinner, or anything. I just, when I'm hungry, I go down and it's just there prepared for me. And some people are like, oh, it's so lazy. It doesn't bring me money. It doesn't bring me joy. Me going to the supermarket, 20-minute drive there, probably 45 minutes shopping because I have no freaking idea what to get, and then another drive back, that's nearly 2 hours wasted of my life. I'm valuing my time at minimum $1,000 an hour. That's not worth $2,000 for me. And then to come back and cook it when I can pay someone else $25 an hour to do all of that. Right. So it's like some people don't get that. Like, I've always been clear to actually, because I know it's going to work out. And the first time I actually did this, because sometimes to employ more people to do things, it's scary. But I just always knew, if I can have someone, if I can buy back time. I heard a quote a little while ago. Somebody said, it's like, poor people trade time to get money, and rich people trade money to buy time. And I was like, that's a very interesting thing. So I've always looked for, how can I buy back more time? And the first time I did this, I had her come to the house, and I was scared, because I was like, man, now it's gonna add another $100 a week to my. I wasn't scared, but you know what I mean? Like, you start adding on more things. I'm like, am I prepared to really have someone cook my stuff for me? She did that. I came out to my office. I made a sales call, made $5,000. And I was like, that to me just told me right then that I was like, you're making the right decisions, because I was then able to put myself in a position to do the high income skill for my business while outsourcing something that doesn't bring me money and it doesn't bring me joy.
Yeah. I literally love that. And obviously, because we are mostly supposed to be talking about like podcasts, I think that is something that you can apply to podcasts, because I think a lot of people, they're not necessarily starting a podcast because they want to start a podcast. They're starting it for that end result. So of whatever that might be, it might be a coaching program, or it might be having the income coming in from the marketing that can be done either side, and in the podcast and stuff like that, the affiliate marketing, that sort of thing. So I think that if you are going into setting up a podcast, being clear on what that end result is, which is to sell more $5,000 products or whatever it is, will also help you to be able to know what to let go of and when. What do you think about it?
Yeah, absolutely. And I was actually just thinking back to when I did start. There was certain things I did in the beginning. I always outsourced things I didn't want to learn, but I knew that I could just give it a red hot crack and do my best at some things. But with the whole podcasting thing, I think the main thing, because I've spoken to hundreds of people now about it, and when I've done my research, the one thing that's held people back, including me when I started mine, was I thought it was going to take too long. I was like, I don't have time to start a podcast. I don't have time to put, what's needed into it right now. Thinking that miraculously in a year, I'll start to have 26 hours in my day. You know what I mean? Like, we always do think one day when I have more time. No, you're never going to get more time. Bill Gates, Steve Jobs has no hours left. It's a bad example. Bill Gates or Bezos, they have the same 24 hours we do. They just manage their time differently, and they're employing people in to start doing things like that. So it's important to notice that any belief in your head that's negative, like that's talking you out of doing what you want to do, is actually a negative belief. Even the really calm ones that's like, oh no, I know you can do really well at this and you know you can too, but are you sure you have enough time to do a podcast right now? And it's like, of course, you create time for what's important to you. And if I always say to people, if they really knew the impact of what could happen from having their own established brand and influence and authority, then they would have done one a year ago. But I think the main thing that stops people is because I think it's just going to be too hard, and it doesn't have to be that. Like now I can honestly say that each month I probably put into my podcast about 4 to 5 hours a month. That includes interviewing, and that's it. And the rest is completely done. So I looked at it like I was setting up a mini business, and even though it didn't generate income from day one, and doesn't generate income on the front end, be lucrative with it. And that's what I've figured out as well. Like I think I made about 50K my first 7 months from it. Because I wanted to prove people wrong. I let people say to me, "Why are you doing a podcast? And I'm going to make any money from it." I was like, "Well, who said that's what I was doing?" But then B, interesting belief there. You can keep it. I'm going to create my own.
Yeah. I love that. I totally love that you're just like, yep, cool, that's your belief, but moving right along. And I literally love that, yeah, you're setting it up as, even though in the beginning it might not have been a revenue generating activity, you set it up to be that revenue generating activity. You didn't go, all right, I'm going to work in this business until it makes money. You went, you know what, this business is going to make money, so I'm going to set it up for that right now. And I literally love
Yeah.
that.
Well, I've always looked at, I heard Grant Cardone say one time, he's like, what would you rather have, $1 million cash or 1 million raving fan followers? And he did it live, and all these people were like, million cash, because he's always about money, my money. And I was thinking, no, I would want 1 million raving fan followers, because when I've got 1 million fan followers, like let's do the maths right now. Like if you look at, you have 1 million. So let's say you have 1 million raving fan followers, okay, that are subscribed to you, they watch your stuff, they're engaged, they're there, okay, they're raving fans. And you just sell 10% of them, right? 10% of them, 100,000 people, okay, you close 10% of them, which roughly, like if you're raving fans, closing rates a lot higher than that usually. But let's just say you close 10%, and then you sell them with just a $97 offer, like whatever you do have. It's $9.7 million. And this is just always the delayed gratification thing. Most people want it now. They want it now. I looked at my podcast. I'm like, I'm building an audience. I'm building a movement here. I'm building a place that can create more impact than anyone else has ever done. I'm creating a place that's really going to change lives, because my podcast is all personal development and success. And I just want to create a place where people can really, get inspired to create their dream life. And I know just by giving that value, in 5 years' time, I'm going to have an army of people who just love the tribe, love the movement. And, they're going to come along to whichever direction I go in, and because I've just always focused on giving them the best, advice and best wisdom there, and bringing the best guests and stuff on. And so I've always looked at it like that. And that's how I really encourage people to do it. Not to just start your podcast. Like we're in a world right now where you can build a personal brand, and like you're the asset. If people really get that, it's crazy, and in 5 years time, it's not going to be easy anymore. 5 years time to grow on Facebook and Instagram, it's already starting. You get hardly any reach nowadays, right? You get hardly any reach. Like story views are always down. You're playing with the algorithm. There's all these things out there. And because Facebook and Instagram just want you to spend money, boost your posts, pay ads, and that's just getting higher and higher and higher. So to grow organically in the next 5 years, that is going to, like, organic growth is going to be nearly at a stop. And the thing with podcasting is you're growing and you're in control of your own audience. There's no algorithm with the podcast. I put out an episode and it goes out to every single subscriber. So that's what I love so much. And so I looked at it really building, like owning the personal branding space. And if putting in time right now, building your personal brand during this pandemic, especially when it's all over and in a couple of years' time, people are going to be knowing you, they're going to like you, they're going to trust you for what you've done and what you've built. And this is how you can really kind of separate yourself from the rest of people who are just posting booty pics or having an OnlyFans page on Instagram. yeah, you can, I know women with 500 and 600,000 followers on Instagram, but they're not building a business from that. And one of my old mentors used to say is like, if you got more followers on Instagram than you have money in the bank, then you need new friends, right? So it's not about the followers, it's about the engagement of them. It's how they view you, and it's about and why they're following you for. And now is just the most crucial time to be building a personal brand properly. And I haven't been able to fault it. It's completely changed my freaking life. Having it, hey.
I literally love that. I love it all. I am aware of time though, so I do want to ask you, what are 3 top tips that you would recommend to someone who does want to build a personal brand through podcasting?
Well, first one is you need a launch. So like go and learn, like, how can I say this without plugging myself? Like, I'm not I'm not saying like I'm taking myself out of the picture, right? Like, I'm not saying that you should go and do my course, right? But like, find someone that has just done what you want to do and you just pay them. Like, that's what I've always done. I've always just paid to speed up my progress, right? So learn from someone else's mistakes, and just apply. Okay. Second one is, make the decision to launch it. So if you are like, I think I can do it all on my own, then kudos to you. That's incredible. I'm cheering you on. Just decide to launch, like actually create a strategy and get it out to the masses, get it into the top charts, and then also be here a year from now. That's the third one. Be here a year from now. One of the things I see a lot of people struggle with, and this is why they fail to get the results they want in life, is because they're just trying things. I'm just going to try this podcast thing. I'll give it 90 days. And if I'm as big as Lewis Howes in 90 days, then I'll stay. And if I'm not, I'll quit. And most people just do that. It's like, I'm pretty sure, I'm almost certain, don't bet me on this one, but I'm almost certain it was Lewis Howes that did say, he's like, for his first year in podcasting, he was only getting like tens in the tens for downloads per episode for his first year. But he just knew, he's like, I was going to keep going. And now he's probably got one of the top 5 podcasts in the whole world. The School of Greatness, it's massive. He's done over 1,000 episodes. So I always set that goal out from the start. I said that if I'm starting, there's no finish line. I'm doing this. I'm going to be here a year from now, and I'm actually committing to 1,000 episodes. So I committed to that from the start. I didn't put a goal of when it will be done by, but I'm like 1,000 episodes and it's done. So I know I've committed for that. And that's why I just know that the Dream Out Loud podcast will be freaking epic and huge, because I think if everyone committed to 1,000 episodes, you got to be great.
Definitely 100% agree with that. And just quickly, love to touch on consistency as well, because by doing 1,000 episodes, you've got to have that level of consistency.
Yes. Yeah. So I've never missed a week, except for, I think I had 2 months off when I actually put a stop to it. I said, well, I'm rebranding, I'm refocusing, I'm bringing new guests. And I took that time off to actually just realign, say, what's the new mission? What's everything? Cause I didn't know it was going to be that big. I was like, wow, it's scary. So I took the time for that, but I've never missed a week, and that's the thing. And I've spoken to some people and they're like, oh yeah, I've got a podcast too, but I haven't done an episode in like 2 months. I'm like, the fuck do you mean you haven't done an episode in 2 months? Like, imagine right here, if you guys I'll use McDonald's as an example. If you go buy a new McDonald's franchise on the corner in your neighborhood and you tell all of your friends, you say, hey guys, I got the new McDonald's franchise. And all your friends will come to support you. They'll be there on day 1. They might be there on day 2. Right? And then their friends will tell some friends. And sooner rather than later, people are going to start to know that you've got the new McDonald's in town. But then one day, you're like, oh, life just got in the way. Oh, life's got in the way. Sorry. My door broke, and the cat got sick. So I can't open the store today. Sorry. And then people come to the store and they're like, oh, it's weird they're closed. I thought McDonald's was 24/7. And then the next day they come back and you're opening it. And they go, oh, that was weird. Maybe it was just a one day. But the next week, oh, the dog got sick this time. The dog is sick. I can't come in today. And then people come again and they go, you know what? This place is so inconsistent. I don't trust them. I'm going to the neighborhood over there. You know why? Because there's 47 McDonald's in every neighborhood, right? And there's actually over 2 million podcasts out there as well. So if you're not consistent, then your listeners will go and find someone who is, because it's about really just being there, being consistent. That's the highest thing of building trust. You want to have a raving fan base who know you, they like you, and they trust you. They might know you if you have your podcast. They might like you if you put out good content, but they're not going to trust you if you only put it out when it suits you.
Yeah, totally 100% agree with that. And I'm so glad that we managed to squeeze that in, because I really do feel like that is such a big thing, that when you start a business, you need to treat it like a business, show up like a business, and be consistent like a business. So
Yeah, absolutely.
thank you so much for sharing that. Do you happen to have any top resources that you would recommend to someone who's starting out on a podcast journey? Sorry, I know that you can recommend yourself.
Yeah, well, me, just go ahead and follow me. I do have a Facebook group and stuff. You can find me on Instagram at Morgan T Nelson, or on Facebook, Morgan Nelson. Um, but YouTube's got so much stuff. Like YouTube's got everything. What I would what I would say, here's what I'd say. Take action before you're ready, and you can do that by actually just going out today and buying a microphone and something. Because what stops so many people is actually going, which microphone should I get? Here, do this. Go down to your local electronics store or jump on Amazon, work out how much you prepare to spend on a microphone. If it's $100, $200, or $300, doesn't matter. Get anything in your budget. Just get a USB microphone. That's all you have to think about. I'm about simplicity. Some people think they need the whole soundboards, the Rode setup, this hectic thing. That scares me. I have no idea how to do it. My microphone still to this day has a USB. I plug it in and I go. And that's it. So go out and just get your microphone and actually commit, because once you've got that, you've actually created the identity now of going, okay, I'm actually a podcaster. But I truly believe until you've done that, you're still on the fence and you still haven't decided. So you've got to make the decision that you are jumping into this, you're doing it, and commit and create something great. And yeah, when you got an epic show, hit me up and I'd love to come be a guest.
I love that. That is so good. Now, where can people find you? Yeah, do you have a second to share your links? I am going to link them all underneath, but we'd love to hear it from you.
Yeah. So yeah, my Instagram is the best place to get me, at Morgan T Nelson. Facebook is just Morgan Nelson. And I have a YouTube now, Morgan T Nelson. And my podcast is called Dream Out Loud, if you're into personal development, growth, success, and leveling up and being the best person you can.
Literally love that. Thank you so much for being here. I know everyone will have got so much value out of that. Firstly, about podcasting, but secondly, just about business strategies and outsourcing in general. So it's been an absolute pleasure to have you here.
Awesome. Thank you so much for having me on.